South Florida is one of the hottest real estate markets in the country, with the population booming double the national average. With this, business and construction are booming as well, but many developers aren't thinking this towards the future. They are thinking now. According to the nonpartisan research organization Risky Business, they estimate $15 to $23 billion of Florida property underwater by 2050. Florida's 1,350-mile coastline also makes it the flattest state in the United States, with the smallest difference from its highest and lowest points. Its highest point, Britton Hill, in the Florida Panhandle, is 345 feet above sea level, while Fort Lauderdale is roughly 9 feet above sea level and Miami is roughly 6 feet. The average person visiting a beach surely won't notice the difference, but soon the impact will be hard to miss. According to the Miami Herald, just 3 feet of sea level rise could force 1.2 million Floridians out of low-lying communities to higher ground. Residents say water is rising higher and flooding is more frequent every year. Street corners can be found puddled on most days without any rain, and high tides regularly flood roads and intersections. With over 156 miles of canals, Fort Lauderdale is known as America's Venice. Back in the early days, residents cut canals to drain inland areas, using the fill to raise the land and build properties. These canals are now open for tidal flooding and storm surge. They also cut down mangrove forests and leveled sand dunes, both natural barriers to flooding. The city is making improvements though, by installing backflow preventers and upgrading drainage systems. You might ask, well, how can this all be possible? According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, reports say warming, especially in the world's polar regions, are driving the melting of land glaciers, ice sheets, and warming ocean water, with federal authorities showing that the average sea surface temperatures have increased since 1980. Scientists from the NOAA predict the seas around Florida to rise up to 17 inches higher by 2030 and up to 5.5 feet higher by 2070. By the turn of the century, they predict the ocean can be as much as 10.5 feet higher. And here in Florida, the cities here are built on porous limestone, where the water doesn't just come over the seawalls, it seeps up from beneath the streets. Considered ground zero, Miami is expected to lose the most from sea level rise in the United States, spending over $500 million to raise more than 100 miles of roads, installing check valves on storm drains, building higher seawalls, and raising streets and sidewalks. Real deal, South Florida real estate news. Miami Beach officials say as they rise city streets, homeowners and building owners should seriously look at raising their structures too. Although, raising buildings does not come cheap. A single family home can cost up to $100,000, and raising a small building 60 to 70 years old, well, that can cost hundreds of thousands. Another pricey option is seawalls. Seawalls run from $600 to $2,000 per linear foot, adding a 12-inch cap costs about $60 per foot as well. In Fort Lauderdale alone, a seawall along the stretch of the beach was recently breached. Replacing this half-mile stretch would cost up to $5 million, according to the BBC. For communities across South Florida, the main problem is drainage. The systems were designed to let stormwater drain into the ocean when it rains. But now, seawater is rising higher than the exit drains and into the streets. According to CNBC, Florida's governor is skeptical on climate change and has been directing his attention away from the issue. To top it off, President Trump just signed an executive order overturning emission-slashing regulations, cutting the EPA budget by 31% and employee numbers by 20%, as well as steep cuts in National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Climate change is definitely a problem we are facing today that looks to only worsen in the near future. It is good seeing small communities make drastic changes to their infrastructure to help cause the need. If now we can only get the help from our federal government, otherwise once vacation destinations will soon become a diver's paradise.